The cabinet door was open. My hands were shaking, and the red string was still wrapped around the letters. I sat on my mother's bedroom floor, and I read my grandfather's handwriting for the first time in 15 years. Asterisk, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. My mother was visiting relatives. She had been gone 2 hours. I had come to find a ration card, something ordinary, something that should not have changed anything. Asterisk, but the cabinet she always kept locked was open. The key was in a drawer she thought no one checked. And inside, at the bottom of a stack of old legal documents, was a bundle of letters tied with a faded red string. My grandfather's name. My mother's name. Dated 6 months before he died. Asterisk, the first sentence I read was, Meera is to receive the house and the land. Asterisk, my hands stopped shaking. Everything went very still. Welcome back to Noctara Confessions. I'm Meera, and I'm 29. This is the story of every year my mother erased me from my own family, and the one letter that brought it all crashing down. Asterisk, if you have ever been the one they called strong, the one who didn't need anything, the one who was always fine, this one is for you. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe, because what happened after I read those letters is not what you'd expect to understand what those letters meant. You need to understand the house I grew up in. Asterisk, my father worked a government job. My mother ran the home. I had one sister, Riya, 5 years older, 5 years louder, 5 years more present in every room she walked into. Asterisk, Riya was the kind of child who filled silence. She talked during meals. She talked during prayers. She talked when guests came over. And my mother never once told her to be quiet. Asterisk, I was the quiet one. I sat in the corner and read. I cleaned the kitchen without being asked. I brought water to my grandfather every evening without fail. Asterisk, my mother used to say, Riya needs more attention. You're strong, Meera. You'll be fine. Asterisk, I believed her. I believed her for 15 years. Asterisk, the first time I noticed something was wrong, I was 9. My grandfather had given me a small diary, brown leather, with a clasp that clicked shut. He said, write down everything that matters, Meera. One day, you'll need proof that you existed. Asterisk, I laughed. I was 9. I didn't understand what he meant. Asterisk, when I was 12, he fell ill. I was the one who brought his medicines. I was the one who sat beside his bed when no one else would. I was the one who held his hand during the nights he was afraid. Asterisk, Riya never visited his room. My mother said she was busy with studies. My father said nothing at all. When I was 14, my grandfather passed away. In his will, he left his property, a plot of land in the village, a savings account, and a small house to his grandchildren. He didn't specify. He didn't divide. Asterisk, my mother said she would handle it. She said Riya and I would get our shares when the time was right. Asterisk, the time was never right. Asterisk, after my grandfather died, the house changed. My mother became colder. Not toward Riya, toward me. When I finished school and asked about college, my mother said, we can only afford one. Riya is older. She goes first. Asterisk, when I asked about my grandfather's property, she said, it's being taken care of. Don't worry about it. Asterisk, I didn't worry about it. I was 14. I was grieving. I was trying to survive in a house that had stopped seeing me. Riya went to college. Riya got new clothes every semester. Riya had a wedding that cost more than my father earned in 3 years. And every time I asked, every time I questioned, my mother said the same thing. Asterisk, you're strong, Meera. You'll be fine. Asterisk, I worked. I saved. I put myself through a local college. I got a job at a small company. I rented a room the size of a closet. I ate 1 meal a day and told myself it was discipline. It wasn't discipline. It was survival. Asterisk, I want to be clear about something because people always assume the worst. No one ever hit me. No one screamed at me or told me I was worthless. If they had, maybe I would have understood it sooner. Cruelty announces itself. AdSense just lets you wonder. Asterisk what I got instead was a careful, quiet kind of nothing. Every time my mother handed me something, a cast-off sweater, a leftover meal, a practical gift, it came with an apology built into it. We didn't want to spoil you. Asterisk, and every December, I watched Riya unwrap things with her name on the tag. My name was never there. Asterisk, if you have ever been the one whose name was never on the tag, you already know how this feels. Stay with me. Comment and subscribe, because the truth I found in that cabinet changes everything. There was one thing in our house nobody was allowed to touch. On my mother's dresser sat a small silver frame turned slightly toward the wall. Inside was a photograph of a hospital blanket, pale yellow, folded the way you fold something around a baby. There was no baby visible in the picture, just the blanket and my mother's hands. Asterisk, I asked about it once. My mother took the frame out of my fingers so gently and so fast that I never asked again. That's not for little hands, she said. Asterisk, I didn't have the words for it then. I only knew that something in my mother had a room I had never been let into, and that I had been born standing outside its door. Asterisk, it would be more than 2 decades before I learned what the yellow blanket meant. And when I finally did, it explained everything and excused nothing. But that part comes later. Asterisk, for now, you need to know what 15 years of being erased looks like from the inside. Asterisk, I left the day after my 18th birthday in the spring of 2011. Asterisk, I had been saving for it the way you save for a flight out of a country at war. Babysitting money, lunch money, a summer of scooping ice cream and a winter of shoveling driveways. By 18, I had $1,100 rolled in a sock and a battered Corolla I'd bought for $400 of it. Asterisk, nobody tried to stop me. My mother was at the sink. My father read his paper. Riya, 22 and already untouchable, didn't look up from the television. Call when you get wherever you're going, my mother said. And that was the whole goodbye. Asterisk, I drove for 3 hours and stopped at a diner off the highway and cried exactly once, hard, in the parking lot. Then I went inside and ordered eggs and made myself a promise over the worst coffee in the state. Someday I would have a place of my own, a real one. A place with a door and a lock and my name on the deed, where no one could ever decide there wasn't room for me. Asterisk, I started with a bucket. That's not a metaphor. I started cleaning houses with a yellow bucket, a box of rags, and supplies I bought at the dollar store. My first client was a tired single mother who couldn't keep up after a double shift. I cleaned her kitchen so thoroughly she cried. And she told to friends, and they told to friends. Asterisk, for the first year, I slept in the Corolla more nights than I want to admit. Parked behind a grocery store with the seat reclined and a blanket I bought at a thrift shop. I showered at a gym I paid $9 a month to belong to. Every dollar that came in, I split into 3 jars: gas, supplies, the someday house. Asterisk, here is the thing about being the kid who was never quite enough. You learn to never let yourself fail, because you've decided failure is the proof they were right. Asterisk, by 25, I had hired my first 2 employees. By 28, I had a real office, a logo, and a name. Meera Home Care. We didn't just clean. We watched over people's homes when they traveled, managed their move-outs, cared for the houses of the elderly. I was building a company out of the exact thing I had never been given, a place where everyone belonged. Asterisk, my family had no idea. We barely spoke. They still pictured me, I think, as the girl who left with a duffel bag, scraping by somewhere, paying for her pride. They never asked what I did. They never asked how I was doing. Asterisk, and because they never asked, they never saw what was coming. Which brings me back to that floor. My mother's bedroom. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The red string still in my hands. Asterisk, I read the letters in order. 3 of them. Each one more specific than the last. Asterisk, the first was dated 6 months before my grandfather died. He wrote about the property, the land, the savings, the house. He wrote that he wanted Meera to have the house and the land. He wrote that Riya had her own inheritance from her husband's family. He wrote that I was the one who had earned it, not through blood, through care, through the nights I sat with him when no one else did. Asterisk, the second letter was more specific. He named the property. He named me. He wrote, Meera is to receive the house and the land. The savings are to be divided equally. But the property is hers. Asterisk, the third letter was the one that broke me. Asterisk, he wrote, I am leaving this in your hands because I trust you will do what is right. But I know how you are. I know you will protect Riya first. So I am asking you, do not forget Meera. She is the one who stayed. Asterisk, my mother had read those letters. She had read them before my grandfather was even buried. And she did exactly what he feared she would do. She gave everything to Riya. Asterisk, the house transferred to Riya's name 2 months after my grandfather's death. The land sold and the money used for Riya's wedding. The savings withdrawn, spent on college fees, on a car, on a life I was never part of. Asterisk, the truth wasn't that I had been forgotten. The truth was that I had been deliberately, systematically, and knowingly erased. Not by a stranger, by my mother. Asterisk, if you have ever felt like the invisible one in your family, like your sacrifices were taken for granted and your name was left off everything that mattered, you're not alone. This is a safe space for stories like mine, and stories like yours. Subscribe if you want to hear more. I waited until my mother came back. I laid the letters on the table. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat. Asterisk, she looked at the letters. Then she looked at me. And she didn't look surprised. She looked tired. Asterisk, I said. Why? Asterisk, she said. Riya needed it more. Asterisk, I said. He left it for me. He wrote your name. He trusted you. Asterisk, she said. He trusted me to do what was best for the family. Riya was struggling. Her husband's business was failing. She needed the money. She needed the house. Asterisk, I said. And me. I ate 1 meal a day for 3 years. I walked 6 kilometers to work because I couldn't afford the bus. Did you know that? Asterisk, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, asterisk, you're strong, Meera. You always were. Asterisk, that word. That word I had heard my entire life. That word that had been used like a weapon, disguised as a compliment. Strong. Asterisk, strong didn't mean loved. Strong meant, we can take from you because you'll survive it. That night, I went back to the cabinet. I looked through every document, every paper, every scrap. And at the very bottom, in a small wooden box I had never noticed before, I found another letter. Asterisk, this one was addressed to me. In my grandfather's handwriting, sealed, never opened. Dated 1 week before his death. Asterisk, I opened it. Asterisk, my dearest Meera. Asterisk, if you are reading this, then something has gone wrong. I had hoped your mother would do what I asked, but I know her. And I know how this family works. Asterisk, I want you to know, I did not forget you. I did not choose Riya over you. I chose you. You were the one who stayed. You were the one who held my hand when I was afraid, and you never asked for anything in return. Asterisk, property can be taken. Money can be stolen. Documents can be forged. But no one can take what you earned by being present. No one can steal the love you gave. Asterisk, I have written to your mother. I have asked her to give you the house and the land. But if she does not, and I fear she will not, then I want you to remember something. Asterisk, do not fight for what was taken. Fight for what is still yours, your life, your dignity, your ability to love without conditions. That is something no court, no mother, no sister can ever take from you. Asterisk, I love you. I always did. And I always will. Asterisk, your Dada. Asterisk, I read that letter 4 times. And I wept. Not the quiet tears I had learned to hide. The kind that shakes your whole body and leaves you empty and full at the same time. I did not go to court. I did not fight. I did not confront my mother again. Asterisk, I packed my things. I took my grandfather's diary. I took his letter. And I left. Asterisk, not with a scream. Not with a door slamming. With a quiet, I know what you did. And I forgive you. But I can't stay. Asterisk, my mother didn't cry. Riya didn't call. My father said, you'll come back. Everyone does. Asterisk, I didn't come back. Asterisk, I went to a lawyer. A friend of my grandfather's, old, kind, honest. He read the letters. He read the transfer papers. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. Asterisk, Meera. He said, your grandfather's will was clear. But your mother transferred the property before probate. She used a gift deed, a forged one, I suspect. The mutation happened fast. Very fast. Asterisk, can I fight it? I asked. Asterisk, you can, he said. But it will take years. It will cost money you don't have. And the court will ask why you waited 15 years. Asterisk, he paused. Then he said, asterisk, time is the one thing no court can return. Asterisk, he was right. And I knew it. The court could give me the property. It could give me the money. It could give me a piece of paper that said this was yours. But it could not give me 15 years of knowing I was led. I moved to a new city. I got a better job. I rented an apartment with a window that faced the sun. I ate 3 meals a day. I planted a small tulsi plant on my balcony and watered it every morning. Asterisk, the property is still in Riya's name. The money is gone. The house has been sold. I will never get those things back. Asterisk, but my grandfather was right. What they took from me was property. What I kept, what no one could take, was the knowledge that I had been loved. Truly loved. By the one person who saw me. Asterisk, money can be returned. Property can be recovered. Documents can be restored. Time cannot. No court can give back 15 years. No judge can return the experiences that were stolen. No lawyer can undo the damage of being told you are strong when what you actually were was alone. Asterisk, my mother used that word like a shield to protect herself from the guilt of what she was doing. You're strong, Meera. You'll be fine. She said it so many times that I started to believe strength meant silence. Asterisk, it doesn't. Asterisk, strength is not the ability to survive neglect. Strength is the ability to walk away from it, to look at everything that was taken from you and say, you can keep the property, you can keep the money, you can keep the house, but you cannot keep me. Asterisk, my grandfather knew that. He knew it before I did. He tried to protect me with property, but when he realized that might not work, he protected me with words, with truth, with love. Asterisk, the greatest victory was not getting the property back. It was finally understanding who I was. Asterisk, because the truth does not disappear. Sometimes it simply waits for the right moment to be found. Asterisk, if this story touched something in you, if you've ever been the one who stayed, the one who was called strong, the one who was forgotten, you are not alone. This is Noctara Confessions, a place where hidden truths finally come to light. Asterisk, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below and subscribe, not for me, for the stories that deserve to be told.